mummy's with the maggots now.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
Well, hi there.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Would You Die, the show where they're playing basketball. They're playing basketball. My name is Austin Torres.
And I'm Anneliese Petersmark.
And today we are playing basketball. We're playing basketball. And also talking about horror movies.
Absolutely. You have to forgive us. We are recording this on March 20th, which, if you do not know, is right at the start of March Madness, the NCAA March Madness tournament.
Because we're not just horror movie nerds. We're sports nerds.
We're jocks, basically.
We are jocks.
I'll remind the audience that we did meet in marching band.
Which is the toughest sport to play. Let's be real.
That's so real.
There's so many injuries on the marching band field. It's kind of stupid.
It's so real. Do we want to tell the audience what movie we're talking about this week, or?
We're talking about
the true horror movie that is High School Musical.
We're talking about basketball. We are talking about Teen Wolf.
We are talking about Teen Wolf. I want to be very clear. We are talking about the 1985 movie Teen Wolf and not the teen drama.
Which
producer Jeremy would like me to amend my previous statement. The critically acclaimed teen drama Teen Wolf.
Does it have any basketball in it? No. Then I don't give a damn.
They change it to lacrosse. It's the worst thing ever. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's like if they remade Christine and instead of like this amazing cherry red Plymouth Fury, Christine's now like
a Ford Focus.
Worse, like
a Toyota Camry.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. So anyway, that's why we're not talking about the TV show Teen Wolf. We are talking about the 1985 Teen Wolf starring Michael J. Fox.
Legend.
Love of my life.
Hell yeah. I like that. But I also want to say at the start of this recording, which by the time this episode comes out, this would have been like 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago.
3 weeks.
We did a live stream on the channel with Bobby and Mike from People Under the Scares. We did a monster bracket. Initially, when I made the bracket, it was going to be like 68 horror monsters and villains, and whoever was the most iconic, most popular, who they thought was the best one would come out on top. And before we started, the idea was presented, are they playing basketball?
Ooh.
So, one, that fucked up my seedings a little bit because Michael Myers wouldn't have been the top overall seed.
That's fair.
Can I interject?
Yes.
About the basketball song. I know this is way off topic, but so there's a lyric in that song where he says, "Basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way you dribble up and down the court." I spent years believing that lyric was, "I like the way you jiggle up and down the court." So for years, from like ages 12 to like 17, I was singing, "I like the way you jiggle up and down the court."
That's amazing. That was allowed in Like Mike.
That's so funny. Yeah, so back to the live stream. You could have found a better way to say that. I just want to be so clear. But back to the live stream. Yeah, that would definitely. Those are very different seatings, I feel. From
and like
just iconic horror
I wouldn't
movies.
have put Christine in the bracket. Her having the like disadvantage of not having arms.
She'd probably be a great defenseman, though.
But like maneuvering would be kind of hard. So,
That's fair.
anyways, what rebound? She can't catch. But anyways, you guys can listen to that live or watch it on YouTube. It'll be up. I'm sure by this point I would have made a post kind of showing the brackets and everything like that. It was super fun. Spoiler alert for that. I'll just say real quickly, I was not expecting the Final Four to be Victor Crowley, Freddy Krueger, the Predator, and the Velociraptor from Jurassic Park.
Now that's a basketball team.
I was so happy with that Final Four. And, like, Art the Clown did very well because we all agreed, like, that motherfucker can ball.
Mm-hmm.
He can hoop.
That feels right.
Samara got super far in the tournament.
She,
Dracula.
Samara is the original Paige Beckers. I mean, she
Yes.
is truly iconic.
And the Predator ended up winning it all, but, like, 7 feet tall, super athletic.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Definitely.
It makes sense. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
He could be an NBA player.
I can't wait to go back and listen to that live stream. The People Under the Scares podcast guys are excellent, and so are you. So I'm really excited to hear how that all shook out.
Bobby and Mike are great.
Yeah.
So shout out my homies at People Under the Scares. Now, let's for realsies talk about basketball.
Let's get into it. So if you have never seen Teen Wolf 1985, first of all, you're living your life incorrectly. And I need you all to know that. But I will give you a little bit of a synopsis. So Teen Wolf stars Michael J. Fox as Scott Howard. He's a pretty average dude. He isn't very good at basketball, but he's on the basketball team. He struggles in school with popularity, and he works at his dad's hardware store, and he really, really just wants to be better than average.
He even has a $6 haircut.
He does have a $6 haircut.
His words, not mine.
True. A family secret is uncovered that ends up making Scott very unaverage.
Is that a spoiler?
For Teen Wolf?
Well, you're hiding it, like...
I was doing the thing where you write like a synopsis, like a little blurb on the back of the book to make it more intriguing. He's a werewolf, guys. I don't know if Werewolf Wednesdays, and this being the second week of Werewolf Wednesdays, has really tipped you off that he's a werewolf. And the movie being called Teen Wolf?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a wolf.
Oh, ow.
Ow.
Historical context.
Oh my God. Okay. So we're just reading our podcast notes now. So we talked a lot last week.
I'm sorry. That was a very professional transition.
Sure. So we talked a lot about last week about how lycanthropy and werewolfism kind of exists as a myth.
Right.
And one of the ways that it's used in storytelling a lot is to talk about puberty. And like it's a metaphor for puberty and like repressed sexuality and sexual experiences. And that is something that exists obviously like in a much more like family friendly way than like some other iterations of the werewolf myth, but it exists very clearly in Teen Wolf.
Yeah, I would say so. And they're pretty, I don't think explicit is the right word, but they're not subtle about it.
No, not
They're
at all.
like at one point Scott's talking to his coach, I think. He's like, things like he wants to quit the team and stuff because like changes are happening. And he goes, it's kind of late for you to be going through changes, but I get it.
Yeah, his coach is like honestly one of the best characters of the whole thing. He's so funny.
We got to talk about this for a second.
Okay.
No one told me this film took place in Nebraska.
Yeah, his coach is a Cornhusker.
I saw the Cornhusker logo and it was like a jump scare.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. I know this is like silly because obviously they're like a major conference, but anytime I see anything about the Big Ten, like outside of my own circle of like things, I'm like, oh my God, people know about that? It's not underground, fam. Like, it's okay.
It's like the biggest. Like, that's the only sports in Nebraska.
That's it.
Is the Cornhuskers.
Yeah.
Like, they are a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
We almost had Nebraska ball this season.
That's true.
And they fell apart. I was rooting for them.
We were all rooting for you.
We were rooting for you.
So in this specific instance, I think a lot of movies in the 80s were dealing with this idea of like repressed sexuality, right? Like finally kids were able to talk about these feelings that they were having. And so that's kind of where these teen movies came from. I mean, like Teen Wolf is a very stereotypical example of like
But it came
that.
but I feel like it came early enough to where it wasn't
Right.
stereotypical.
Absolutely.
It helped
yeah.
like set the stereotypes.
Mhm.
Cuz like Teen Wolf, I don't remember what year it came out. 85. That's after Breakfast Club. That's after Fast Times, I think.
Yes.
But same year or a little bit after Ferris Bueller.
Yeah,
And then
same year as Ferris Bueller, I believe.
Pretty in Pink comes out later, maybe.
Mhm.
16
Pretty is-
Candles
Pretty
comes out
in
at
Pink
some
is
point.
87, I think.
Yeah, Back to the Future.
Back to the Future
85.
is 85, yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's another teen movie
Yes.
that deals with sex.
Yeah, I mean, and like
Throwing it back to Mommy March. Hey yo.
what a horror movie that was. No, we will talk a little bit about Back to the Future, I'm sure, as it is my favorite franchise and it is near and dear to your heart as well. But,
Oh, I love Back to the Future.
but yeah, I think it was very much in those, like, it wasn't a John Hughes movie, but it was very much in the same vein as John Hughes, just
Yeah.
kind of a little quirkier with the supernatural elements of it. So
And I don't think teen movies like this really existed before this time, other than like American Graffiti in Grease.
yeah, I think that's really true. I mean, Carrie, I suppose, but that's
Yeah, Carrie. But like, there's not a lot of them.
no.
And those movies aren't really like this either. And there were teen movies in the 50s and stuff, but like
Right.
they weren't like this.
Not really. You had like Diner, but like
Yeah.
kind of it.
Yeah, and they weren't. Media for teens up to this point was very family oriented.
They really right. Like these movies really blew up in the 80s because I feel like this is when kids have like more disposable income.
Right, yeah. So they're going to the movies.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's all kind of a rise of like the capitalistic style of the 80s, right?
Yeah.
The malls came out and then teens were getting after school jobs at said malls and then they were
Right.
able to use their income to go to the movies
Go to the
and
movies,
do
go
things.
hang out,
Yeah,
get milkshakes.
the way that kids do. Yeah.
Right. I think Teen Wolf is kind of on the cutting edge of that,
Mhm.
I think. Especially with teen movies actually aimed at teens. Like, I don't think Carrie was aimed at teens.
No, not specifically.
And American Graffiti, I don't think was aimed at teens.
No. I think even Grease wasn't really aimed at teens. All of
Right.
the people who star in Grease were in their 30s, like, or late 20s and 30s.
We used to be a modern country.
We did.
Oh my, no, we used to be a proper country.
We
I
used to
said
be a
modern.
proper country.
We used to be a proper country. But yeah, I do think Teen Wolf plays that teen kind of like, if you look at it now, it's very stereotypical.
Yeah, but at the time, I don't think it was.
Right, I think it was help setting what those stereotypes are.
Right.
Because you could say Halloween's a stereotypical slasher. Well, it kind of invented the...
Yeah. Stereotypes come from somewhere, and that happened to be where it came from.
Exactly.
Yeah, agree. So in terms of Werewolf Wednesdays, and specifically how this movie fits into the ethos and the mythos of, not the ethos, the mythos of werewolves, obviously this movie takes like a very much a lighter approach than a lot of the other werewolf myth movies.
There is a
exists.
very real chance that this is the most lighthearted film we talk about on this podcast.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mentioned this before, and so I don't want to repeat myself too much, but you do a really good job of making horror accessible for a lot of people and talking about what can be horror. And I've always really admired that about this podcast in all of its iterations and everything. So when we talked about doing Werewolf Wednesdays, the first thing that I said was like, hey, can we do Teen Wolf? I know it's like different, but can we do it? And you were like, absolutely. Of course we can do that. That sounds so fun. And so we did. And I'm very glad about it because I think it gives us a good opportunity to talk about some of these tropes that exist in the werewolf genre without getting too kind of heavy about them. Because I think in future weeks we will.
Right. And it's one where it's like watching Teen Wolf, a lot of the movie werewolf lore, like a lot of movies just take from the Wolf Man.
Right.
And this is one that doesn't really do that.
No.
Like, Scott doesn't need the full moon or the moon at all.
Right. Yeah, it's very subversive from the traditional myth. I mean, it's not based in a bite, it's a family curse.
Right.
It is not moon related, it's related to like stress, and then he kind of is able to harness it later.
He might be closer to the Incredible Hulk
than
he is what we normally think of werewolves.
That's my secret, Boof. I'm always angry.
Okay, we have to talk about this.
We do have to talk about Boof.
So I mentioned earlier. Well, no, I mentioned before we started recording. I put on this movie the other day. I don't think I've actually seen the whole thing before. And the reason why I say that is like, I remember him playing basketball and stuff. I'm watching the movie. I'm like, I didn't know that. I don't remember that. I don't remember that. All I remembered was he was playing basketball. So I'm not sure I've ever actually seen it other than like clips. And I just convinced myself that I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I'm like, I'm pretty sure I've never seen it is because there is a character named Boof.
There is a character named Boof.
I would remember Boof.
Who was naming people Michael J. Fox? Boof, Biff.
Boof and Biff.
Kendrick Lamar. Like, boof, biff, bam, boof, boof, biff, bam.
Type of shit I'm on, you wouldn't understand. Anyway.
I don't know what he actually says. Like, bing, bam, boom, biff, boof, boof, bam. Like, I don't know.
Close enough. But yeah, Boof. So
Boof, there it is. Boof, there
okay,
it is.
We have to stop. So Boof, if you've never seen the movie, is Scott's like childhood best friend who very obviously from moment one is like very in love with Scott.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting how they kind of set up this, like, I mean, again, when I say this is going to seem kind of like a stereotype, but the stereotype exists in part because of this movie. I mean, this Boof versus Pamela is like kind of a representation for Scott as himself versus Scott as the wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And how like Boof as his childhood best friend really just like loves Scott for who Scott is and really wants him to be himself. And even at the beginning, before anything happens, she's like, what is so wrong with being just average? What's so wrong with like working at your dad's hardware store? He's a good guy. Like, you're a good guy. Like, this is fine. Whereas Pamela won't give Scott the time of day until he becomes somebody.
Right.
Transforms, as it were, into
Grows
the werewolf.
some hair, so to speak.
Not so to speak, like literally.
Put in them balls and them baskets.
Exactly.
He's playing basketball.
Oh God.
But
This is a basketball game that really feels like a basketball game. Anyway.
yeah. But I think it's interesting that you bring up how Boof represents like this. It's okay to just be where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that's a very 80s trope. It's like, be yourself.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's cool. And I like the message of be yourself, but it's interesting that, like, because I feel like a lot of movies, like, later, like, while we were kids, we're like, you got to be the best version of yourself. And TV shows, like, I want to be the very best.
Like no one ever was.
I don't remember the rest of the lyrics.
Anyway.
But yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
So it's interesting where it's like, it's fine.
I mean, like, I think the thing is with the media that we grew up with in particular is that be yourself really works and is really easy when you are exceptional. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really easy when you are the chosen one or you have these secret magical powers or whatever. And it's not as easy when you are just a person, you know what I mean? And when you're just doing your best. And I think like Teen Wolf is really interesting because I don't necessarily know if you dig too deep in this, if it really executes the message the best that it can be. Because like, it's not that as though Scott like took some magic potion to become the wolf. Like the wolf is intrinsically part of him. So I do think there's that added element. But I think that the idea that he doesn't need the wolf and he doesn't need to, you know, put on airs in order to just be like a good human is important.
And at the end of the movie, he kind of finds that balance between being fine with he comes from small town, but not having to settle for not aspiring for more. Because he helps lead his team to a state championship?
I believe so, yeah. At the very least, he defeats the dragons, which is a big deal because Mick is on the dragons.
Fuck Mick.
Fuck Mick.
It's almost as bad as fucking Arbogast.
Mick is really annoying. Mick is so funny because, like, he's such a weird character because he's very much the stereotypical, like, angry boyfriend, which exists in a lot of 80s media. But most of the time when you have the angry boyfriend, it's, like, the angry ex-boyfriend who, like, the girl doesn't actually want anything to do with.
Right.
Like, I'm thinking, for example, Karate Kid, right?
Yeah.
Johnny is like the angry ex-boyfriend who like she doesn't actually like or whatever, and he's just like trying to get with her and he's like, stay away from my girl, and she's like, I'm not your girl, Johnny. And like, but like Pamela is actively like, yeah, no, Mick's my boyfriend. Like I understand that we, you know, did stuff in the drama room, but Mick and I are in a committed relationship.
Right, like Mick's a dick.
Yeah.
But she's worse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because she's playing both of them. I mean, like, I would also be really angry if my girlfriend was with, like, a very, very hairy man at the bowling alley.
Right. And, like, it's funny because, like, Mick is not a good dude. I'm not defending him at all. But he has every right. Like, he is not in the wrong. In
that moment? Yeah, absolutely.
It's only at the prom where he does something. Or is it even prom?
The dance,
The dance, yeah. That's the only time where he actually transgresses.
Right.
Other than that, it's like, this fucking wolf is stealing my girl, or, you know, furring around with my girlfriend.
Furring around.
And then he's, you know, he's on the other team at the end of the game, but, like, how's that his fault? Yeah. He wants to win a championship, too.
I mean, he is, like, rude to him at the beginning of the movie when he's, like, bad at basketball and they're playing against each other. So, like, it's not as though he's not a bully.
Oh, I didn't recognize that was him in the beginning.
Yeah, it's him at the beginning. And so, like, he is a bully and, like, that's very much painted. But realistically, you can't be mad at the guy for being like, that's my girlfriend, when she's also actively being like, yes, I am his girlfriend.
And then also he's like, you guys suck at the beginning of the movie, right?
Yeah.
That is probably the nicest trash talk I've heard.
And also accurate.
And it's accurate, and it's like they're playing basketball. Like, I'm not a, like, you know, we're big Michigan State fans, and one of our boys has said a lot more colorful things.
Yeah, that's real.
So, like, you know, it's basketball. You're going to say, and you're saying, you guys suck. To me, that's like rated G. Like,
I
come
mean,
on.
it is, for sure.
I was raised in the depths of the Halo 3 Xbox Live chats.
You guys suck is just the opposite
That's true. I did want to I know we're kind of bouncing around, but I did want to talk about kind of diving into the like puberty metaphor that's in this movie, because we've touched on kind of the popularity aspect of that, right? Like a lot of times for some young men, you like puberty goes one of two ways, generally stereotypically. Obviously, we know there's much more to it than this, but stereotypically, you either get attractive and athletic and become popular, or you get acne and you're a loser forever, right? That's how it works in the movies. And one of the more underrated like metaphors for puberty that I think this movie touches on is like the anger issues. Yeah. Right? When he's buying the beer, Scott's eyes turn red and he like scares me the beer. Yeah, and he scares the shit out of the cashier. And then when Mick is threatening Scott, and like especially when he comes, because this, I will say, this is where he took it too far. Mick talks about how he's like comparing his dead mother to a dog that he shot out in his backyard.
That was out of pocket.
That was crazy. But like, yeah, so obviously, understandably, Scott gets angry there and he throws a bowling ball down. And so I think that those kind of like flashes of anger that are uncontrolled that Scott has is kind of the closest thing we get to like true horror in this movie.
Yeah.
In terms of like scary moments.
And it's interesting that like at one point his dad tries to have a heart-to-heart with him as he's trying to deal with everything he's got going on, and the dad's like, you got to control that wolf.
Yeah.
You got to control these emotions. And he tells the story of like he got into it with like the vice principal or something.
Yes.
Made him pee-pee poo-poo himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's exact quote, by the way. I wasn't paraphrasing. But Scott's just like, oh, I wish I would have seen that. And he goes, well, I don't know who was more scared that night, him or me. Because he was scared that he lost control. And then Scott loses control later. And you can see like, oh, like he's scared of what he can do.
Well, and you can see not only is he scared, but he also is looking at his friend. And I can't remember his name, his friend who's on the team. Who like also hangs out kind of with him and Styles. He's a more minor character, but
it wasn't Styles.
No, it wasn't Styles. It's another kid. But earlier in the movie, like he's like, so and so's avoiding me. He's scared of me, isn't he? And Styles is like, he just needs to like get used to it. Like it's fine. And you can see the camera pans to that kid and he's terrified. And like I think he realizes in that moment like it's one thing to be terrified because you don't understand. It's another thing to be terrified because you know you should be.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here. And so I think that moment is kind of heartbreaking because it's really hard to watch Scott kind of reconcile like, okay, I have to get this under control.
Right.
And until I do, I cannot be using this.
No, I like that moment for that reason. And then I love when the dad comes and saves him. Because he has control of the wolf. And then Mr. Dookie, what's his name?
I can't remember.
I don't remember his name. He's like the vice principal. And at some point he goes up to Scott. He's like, I just want to remind you who has the real power here. I'm still the vice principal. And it's like, bruh, if you have to say vice principal, you don't got any power.
Vice Principal Thorne.
Thorne?
Yeah, Thorne.
Talk about a thorn in my side. Ayo.
His name is Rusty Thorne. I remember that now.
Jesus. How do you have characters named Rusty Thorne, Boof, Styles, and then get like lame ass Scott Howard?
Because he's average. That's the point. Everybody else is unique except for him.
This shit's elevated.
This is elevated horror here.
This is elevated horror. Damn. Theme. Metaphor. When he's growing the werewolf hair, that's a metaphor for growing pubic hair.
Yeah.
This shit's elevated.
It is elevated.
Hereditary, eat your heart out.
I did want to say, like, so the drawbacks to the popularity, right, is that
Yeah.
it's not permanent. Nothing that he does is permanent, no matter how hard he
Right.
tries. Pamela won't commit to him. Even at the
Mhm.
height of his popularity, she's like, no, I'm going to the dance with Mick. He's my boyfriend. The basketball team turns on him because they're like, we're not even winning. You're winning. Like, we're not
Right.
doing anything.
And they're right
Mhm.
for that, you know.
Yeah. His two best friends in the movie, he's got Boof, who's in love with him, but he kind of ostracizes himself from her. He doesn't tell her
Right.
his big secret.
He
And
kind
then
of treats her like shit.
he
I
really
think.
does. I mean, like, the part that kind of always breaks my heart, and it's, like, kind of underrated, but it's the part where they're in the diner, and they're
Mhm.
like, Boof, did you know? And she goes, are you kidding? Because, like, she can't say yes, because that would be a lie, but if she says no,
Right.
then people are like, well, yeah, because she's not actually as close to him as she thinks.
Right. And she's out there playing basketball with his dad.
Right. And then his other friend, Styles, who, like, I love, he's the comedic relief, right? And maybe it's like hashtag not that deep, but he kind of turns Scott into a cash cow. Like, he's like, I'm gonna sell t-shirts, I'm buttons and
Yeah.
shit. And
And then when Scott
know.
doesn't want to be the wolf anymore, he's like,
but you
well,
have to be the wolf.
you're kind of being selfish. Think about me.
Right, exactly. And yeah, and then at the end of the movie at the dance, as soon as he does something they don't like, he's out. He's gone.
Right.
You know? So I think, yeah, there's a lot to the semi-permanence of his popularity that I think he learns.
It's like he's only
Through the story.
popular when he's doing things for other people.
Yeah.
He can't be himself.
And that's generally
Yeah.
how it is, right? I mean, like, that's how popularity works, is
Right.
you have to follow what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are lucky enough that, like, they don't have to give it a second thought. The things that they genuinely like and enjoy are things that are popular.
Right.
But especially, I think, nowadays, it's hard to be a teenager because, like, trend cycles go so fast because of social media that, like, what's popular last week isn't popular this week, and your parents can't buy you a new pair of sneakers every single week. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, things become cringe so fast now.
And genuinely enjoying things
Is
becomes cringe.
yeah.
And using words like cringe becomes cringe.
yeah.
And damn, I'm so glad I am a fucking adult man
Yeah.
and no longer a teenager.
I would not want to be a teenager. Like, even being a teenager 10 years ago was easier than it is right now. I can't.
Yeah. So, teenagers who are listening to this,
Sorry.
fucking sorry, guys. Like, I want to say it gets better, but honestly, you just become okay being cringe. It don't
mean,
get better.
But that is getting better, right? Like, you stop caring
Yeah,
so much
yeah.
what other people think of you. And even if you think you don't, like, you do. Like, people don't matter. That, like, there are people you care about and people who care about you, and those are the people that matter once you
Everything
become an
is
adult.
made up and the points don't matter.
Truly. Is Whose Line Is It Anyway cringe now? Whose Line's probably cringe.
If it is, I don't want to know.
That's fair.
I love that show.
Me too.
Scenes from a Hat,
Real.
too good.
Okay. Couple side topics that I wanted to talk about, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So
do
the
it.
first side topic that I have is, how popular are these guys? Because I don't understand their level of popularity, particularly Styles. Because, like, they have to buy the keg to get into the party, but then once they're there, Styles is, like, leading the way. Like, he is leading that weird game that they're all playing that feels really creepy and kind of weird, and he's, like, you know, always the life of the party. He's always got women hanging all over him. I'm just like, even before the wolf thing, like, this is before
Yeah.
Scott becomes the wolf. I don't understand where he falls in the hierarchy.
You see the movie Booksmart?
Yes.
You know, what's his name? Skylar Gisondo?
Yeah.
His character?
Yeah.
To me, that's Styles.
That's so Styles.
I don't know if he's, like, rich, but I feel like he's buying his popularity.
That's fair.
Prepare to get consensually bashed. Or, what's the saying, Booksmart? It's supposed to say, prepare to be bashed or something, but it's like, prepare to be consensually.
I don't remember what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
It's right before they go on his boat party.
I believe you.
And it's
And I can
Yeah.
picture the scene, but I don't remember what you're talking about.
Billie Lourd is great in that movie.
She really is.
But when I saw that Styles character, I was thinking of that one character in Booksmart. But I don't know if he's like buying popularity like the Booksmart character is.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's
I don't
it's that hollow like
right. Like people tolerate him because he's kind of just always around type thing.
and he's forcing himself
Right.
to be there.
Yeah.
And to be around.
Yeah.
Like-
He's an interesting one.
He's kind of cringe. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yes.
Okay. But I think he is what the kids would call a tryhard.
Yeah, real.
Like he's trying too hard
Mm-hmm.
to be cool and liked and popular. But like kids still want to party, so they're gonna go to his party.
Yeah. Yeah, that's real. My other side note was his shirts. Styles has all these shirts, and I took notes about them because I was like, I don't understand how he gets away with wearing these because he wears all of these at school. His first one is "Life sucks and then you die," which is like not that bad, right?
That's true.
It's true. His second shirt that he is wearing in English class in the school is "What are you looking at, dick nose?" Which is crazy.
I remember that shirt.
I just like how are we not getting dress coded here?
Well, it's funny.
I mean, yeah.
You're a teacher, so it's like, don't you guys in your dress code have like a clause where it's like, if it's funny, it's allowed.
No. Maybe go change. Put on a sweatshirt.
Change that I to a U. We might be okay.
Duck nose. Yeah, exactly. Sure. Anyway. The third shirt that he wears to the basketball game is Drunken State, Florida. I don't even know what that one really means.
Yeah, what like
But he
not
does
Drunken
wear it.
Florida State, but like
No, Drunken State, Florida. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like SUNY State, New York, or whatever the fuck. I don't know. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but it's Drunken State, Florida. At least I'm pretty sure. That one was covered by like a Hawaiian shirt, so I couldn't see it fully.
he's not even in Florida.
No.
He's in
They're
Nebraska.
in Nebraska. And then the fourth one that I took note of was Wolf Buddy, which is obviously much tamer, but I thought was cute.
And is that the one he was like trying to like give to Boof?
No, that one just says like Teen Wolf on it and just has the face.
And then
But he has
Boof,
another one that
who is
says-
iconic.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about this scene.
Boof doesn't want the shirt, and Pamela comes up being a bitch. I spent way too long trying to think of a different word,
You really tried.
but that's what she was being.
She was.
And Boof just goes, "Hey, do you want this shirt? It's too big for me."
Yeah. And then she turns to Scott and she goes, "Well, there are some advantages, right, Scott?" And then walks away. And I'm like, Queen Who knows her
Boof.
worth. Like, does she deserve better than Scott? Absolutely. But she also sees the heart of gold that is within, and I respect that for her.
Hey, Boof, whatever Boof wants,
Boof gets.
Boof gets.
That can't be her real name, right? Like, did they say her real name somewhere?
What would her
in
real
this?
name be?
I don't know, but it can't be Boof.
It is. This is the 1980s.
I don't
in
think
fucking
anybody.
Nebraska.
I just don't think anybody in the 1980s was named Boof.
There was, and she's in fucking. What's
It feels like one of those things where like the writers were for sure like, this is gonna catch on and it's gonna be attributed to our movie, and it wasn't. And now this woman has to live the rest of her life knowing that she played Boof.
all of my children will be named Boof.
I just have to believe, Susan or City, if you're out there and you know that Boof has a real name, can you please write into the podcast?
It's Boof. No last name either, just Boof.
I just don't believe that's her
Like
name.
Prince or Zendaya.
It's Boof.
Boof.
It's so weird that her name's Boof. Anyway.
Hi, my name is what? My name is who? My name is Wicca Wicca Boof.
You have to be so careful too, because you can't mess anything up. Otherwise, people are gonna be like, "Man, you really boofed that up."
What the Boof?
What the Boof? Oh, man.
I don't think I'm beating Boof. There it is.
That was the best one, yeah.
Here comes a boof. Here comes a boof.
Ready or not.
Here she comes. Oh, man. Boof, if you're out there, we love you.
You can boof if you want to. You can leave your...
Read the script, too. It's just like, we don't need to change it.
Yeah, because what are you going to change it to?
Any other name, any real name.
That is a real name.
It's
like, what about
Boof.
Sarah, and they're like, we really are pretty.
We like
dedicated to
Boof. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that episode in The Simpsons where they go to, I think, Itchy and Scratchy Land, and Bart's looking for a Bart tag, and he's like, Bort?
Bort.
Who's named Bort? And like the kid comes up, it's like, Mommy, can I have this tag? No, Bort. And some guy's like, excuse me? Oh, my son is also named Bort?
There's a couple of quotes that I wanted to talk about from this movie.
Are they Boof related?
They're not. Most of them are Coach Finstock related.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
But my favorite quote that he says is, "There are 3 rules that I live by: never get less.
This was funny.
Never get less than 12 hours sleep. Never play cards with a guy who has the same first name as the city, and never get involved with a woman with a tattoo of a dagger on her body. Now you stick to that, and everything else is cream cheese."
And this is like directly after, like, his team basically holds a mutiny against Scott.
Yeah.
Coach witnesses the whole thing, and that was his takeaway.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I also really liked when he was like trying to forfeit the game at the beginning.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, like my players have like records at stake. Like, no, they're not gonna forfeit." And he was like, "I just thought if we did it now, you could beat the 5 o'clock traffic."
It's iconic.
Wait, I found it. I'm looking on IMDb. Apparently, her full name, she has a full name. It is Lisa Boof Marconi. Which,
Middle name is Boof?
no, it's a nickname, which begs the question, how did we get the nickname Boof?
Marconi?
Yeah.
Boof Marconi?
Her name is Lisa. Why is she Boof? I have
Boof,
to know.
there it is.
I have to know. I have to know how Boof came along.
Where did you get this information?
I got this information from IMDb.
That doesn't mean it's true.
I mean, yeah, probably not. But like,
I'm gonna need some validation on that.
I need someone to tell me if Boof's real name is Lisa.
I refuse to believe. Because where does Boof come from?
I don't know.
Like, if I were to name my kid Boof, they'd be like, "Hey, where does Boof come from?" And I'd be like, "The iconic 1985 horror comedy Teen Wolf starring Michael J. Fox." But they can't say the iconic 1985 horror comedy Teen Wolf because they are the 1985 iconic horror comedy Teen Wolf starring Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, I just...
Boof goes the weasel.
Apparently, according to this, one of the writers said that she was a college girlfriend. And like, so this is like...
Is there a real Boof out there?
This is Jeff Loeb, and this is a quote from him. "The short version is, she was my college girlfriend. What happened was I was at Columbia, and we used to sit on the steps that go up to the library. And during the springtime, kids just sort of sit out there and eat, talk, and watch the girls go by. I was sitting there, and she walked by, this beautiful young blonde girl. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something like, 'Do you want to have lunch sometime?' as she walked by, because I'm a smoothie at the age of 19. And she turned around and goes, 'Excuse me?' And I said, 'I'm sorry, I just want to know if you want to have lunch sometime.' And she said, 'Oh, I thought you called me Boof.' And I said, 'I'm sorry, that's not even English. I don't even know what you're saying to me.' And she goes, 'No, that's why I stopped, because why would anyone call anybody Boof?' And I said, 'Well, I didn't, but now that I've met you, I'm Jeff, and you must be Boof.' And then it became one of those things where she would call me Jeff, and I would call her that, and that's how it all started.
That is a great story.
I'm sorry. I still love the idea that, like, okay, you had this college girlfriend and you had this, like, really deep inside joke about, like, calling her Boof, which, like, happens, right? Like, couples have inside jokes all the time. Friends have inside jokes all the time. But then you decided, I'm going to name a movie character after her, but not explain the lore. Like, I'm not going to explain it in the movie.
Well, it's
I'm just
better
gonna call
without
her
the lore.
Boof.
It's better without the lore because you see how much lore we invented, how much
That's
we put
fair.
into this movie,
That's true.
all because there is a character named
Boof.
Boof. That's like if I made a movie and named someone Glip Gloop.
Clip gloop.
Make a great Johnny Cash song. A girl named Boof.
A girl named Boof.
By
That's
Johnny
good.
Cash.
Monstro Elizabeth.
Okay, we have to talk about van surfing. Because it's my dream.
You haven't done it?
No, I haven't. I really want to.
Well, let's just go get a van. It's about to be summer here in the Mitten State. We get the nice summers.
The nice summers.
If they can van surf in Nebraska.
They can van surf in Michigan.
Yeah.
I think we'll
Let's
get
do it.
arrested.
Well.
But maybe if we got a van that says Wolfmobile on the side, then they won't because they'll know it's a reference.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
If they pull us over and they ask us, just say you're Boof.
Yeah. And then we have to play, like, Surfing USA really loudly, and I have to do a headstand.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Because you got to impress them. Someone's van surfing.
Someone's out there van surfing.
No, I'm pretty sure it's a motorcycle.
Yeah, it is. Any other thoughts on the movie?
Back when I did drum corps, we used to bus surf.
That's fucking awesome. Are you
Not
serious?
not on like the top of the bus.
Right, but like in the aisles?
In the aisles,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
That's fair. Yeah, we didn't do a lot of bus surfing when I was in band, but we did a lot of sitting on the floor of the bus. Which is not the same. It's a lot sadder. Usually after a tough loss. That's all I'm putting out there. So in terms of like impacts on greater culture, Teen Wolf was part of kind of the 1985 trifecta for Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, this was like one of the biggest years you can possibly have as an actor. I think rivaled by Timothée Chalamet this year.
Yeah.
Doing Dune Part 2 and
A Complete Unknown.
getting nominated for A Complete Unknown and like being like an SNL icon.
Right. Yeah.
Even then, I think Teen Wolf, Back to the Future, and
Family Ties.
yeah, is more iconic.
Yeah, I think so. There's this really fascinating scene in Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, which is his like documentary about his life, that really displays it very well. And he talks about how his Family Ties co-star got pregnant, so it delayed production a little bit. Not a ton, not to the point where they stopped filming, but to a point where it was severely limited. They were only filming for like half days.
Yeah.
And he had already accepted the role in Teen Wolf when Steven Spielberg reached out and was like, hey, we want to film Back to the Future with you because somebody was in it who they didn't like for the part.
Yes.
I was hoping you would jump in with who.
Eric Stoltz.
Thank you.
Oh. I didn't know. I mean, I'm sure he's over it, but I didn't know if we wanted to just...
No, I mean, like,
Does Eric Stoltz deserve to be catching strays right now?
I don't think it was like he was bad at acting.
No,
I think they
no.
just wanted to refilm with Michael J. Fox.
And
so,
they've said that, like,
Right.
and like he
Yeah.
did his job, he did great, but he wasn't right for that role.
Right, exactly.
They
And-
wanted Michael J. Fox originally.
So even
Yeah.
though you're doing two projects, you can't turn down a Steven Spielberg project. You just can't.
Right.
And so they would talk about how they'd wake him up, and the Teamster driver would drive him to the Paramount set for Family Ties in the morning. He would do Teen Wolf in the afternoon, and then he would do Back to the Future at night.
Yeah.
And just do that over and over and over again. And all three roles Family Ties had been happening, but
and you can't, you
Right.
have a TV gig, you go with it.
Right. And so all three roles kind of rocketed him to this like teen heartthrob status. I mean, Back to the Future is one of the most iconic movies of all time.
Definitely.
Like trilogies in general. But particularly the first one. And he became a household name after that. I mean, like that was Michael J. Fox, that 3 like project span that happened in 1 year probably rocketed his notoriety for the rest of his life. I mean, like, he's done other things, but that is like what he's known for are those 3 roles.
I can't think of any actor who's had like that kind of success in such a short, well, not short because like he, you know,
right,
even stuff like that don't happen overnight, but like Harrison Ford took a couple years before he blew up the way he did.
Yeah.
Sam Jackson, his career took a couple years before he became something like that. I can't think of someone who blew up like that and had like one crazy year.
Yeah.
It don't happen that way.
No, it really doesn't.
It does help when you're Michael J. Fox and you're just extremely talented and super charismatic.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any like, well, like, because even Chris Pratt had like a year in between. Well, maybe Chris Pratt's the closest because he was on Parks and Rec, and then Guardians of the Galaxy and Jurassic World came out within a year of each other.
Yeah, that's true.
And now he's in every animated movie ever
that's ever existed. Yeah.
But like, he is in Moneyball.
He is in Moneyball.
And he's good in Moneyball. Well, Moneyball is great.
Moneyball's a great movie.
This is our baseball episode now.
Surprise, it was supposed to be basketball. Now it's baseball.
Now it's basketball.
We're playing basket. Sorry. I'm done. Promise. So, Michael J. Fox, here's my soapbox. I mean, Michael J. Fox was the blueprint for pretty much any other teen heartthrob in the latter half of the 80s and the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Which in turn gives us our modern 80s teen heartthrob, Steve Harrington from Stranger Things. I think if you...
he has hair.
True. No, but I think if you look at Steve Harrington, he's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of Michael J. Fox characters. I mean, he's an amalgamation of a lot of things, but like specifically, the dude plays basketball. Like he
does.
Like Scott. Like that is who he is. He's just like a more popular version of Scott.
It's interesting because he starts off as like the bully stereotype character, but if I remember correctly, I guess Joe Keery like did so well and everyone fell in love with him.
Yeah.
Not just the audience, but like the people, the writers and the directors. They fleshed out his character and like made him even more into that Michael J. Fox kind ofness. And then they made fucking Billy. Yeah. Because it's like, well, we still need a bully.
Yeah, and Billy is interesting.
Billy's like a Stephen King bully.
It's really interesting because if we look at like the older boys specifically of Stranger Things, they are all very like they all represent like the very different archetypes of like teenagers you could be in the 80s. Like you have, you know, you start out with Steve Harrington and Jonathan Byers, who are like Jonathan's kind of, he's like not a burnout, but he's kind of implied to be like a burnout, like listens to a lot of punk music, like kind of an outcast type dude.
I thought you were gonna say you can be introverted or extroverted.
Well, you can. I mean, like those are the two options. And then you had the addition of Billy, who is like very stereotypical, like pretty boy bully, but like not in the same way as Steve Harrington. Steve Harrington's like the clean cut, whereas like he's like the bad boy, you know what I mean? Right. And then you have the most recent addition of Eddie, who is like the metalhead, like D&D playing weirdo type
jean jacket wearing,
like battle jacket with the patches type style. Yeah, so I think it's really interesting to see kind of what stereotypes have survived from that era in terms of, because like Stranger Things is wonderful, and I think that the characters themselves are very like complex and wonderfully written characters, but the outward appearances and like the way that they're perceived by the other members of the society are very like archetypes, you know what I mean? Like not necessarily stereotypes, but archetypes.
And sticking with Stranger Things, because it's a very love letter to 80s.
Yes.
Lucas has his Teen Wolf moment.
Oh yeah.
Like in season 4, I think they're playing
the basketball scene.
The basketball scene, that is basically the end scene of Teen Wolf. Slow-mo, shot going in the basket and everything.
Yeah. Side note, because we'll talk about Stranger Things forever, but that scene is one of my favorite scenes in all of television. The like back and forth between the D&D game and the parallels between that and the basketball game.
Oh yeah.
I love that scene so much. Sometimes I just watch that scene and nothing else from the show because I love that scene so much. But I agree that the basketball side of it is very Teen Wolf.
Yeah. That is a good show. I like that show.
10 out of 10.
I like 80s stuff.
Agree. Speaking of TV shows, in terms of impact on culture, we have to talk about the Teen Wolf show, at least briefly. I will be so real. I've only seen one episode of it, so I can't really speak to it. But I do know that, like, it not only has its own place in, like, the cultural zeitgeist of, like, just generally anybody who's watched TV knows Teen Wolf, and it very much falls under that era of like teenage supernatural like TV shows and movies. Like it was popular when Twilight was popular, when the Vampire Diaries was popular, you know, and it was very along that line. But it also was kind of the precursor to this very new trend of these grittier remakes of kind of more wholesome
like
shows.
Isn't Riverdale one of these?
Yeah, like Riverdale is the Archies, or like the Archie comics, only grittier and for teenagers. And then like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and Sabrina and the Teenage Witch. They just did, I believe, a Nancy Drew one a few years ago.
What was that Disney one? I don't know if it's grittier. But
The Descendants? Is that what you're talking about?
No. Once Upon a Time, I think.
Oh yeah, Once Upon a Time. That wasn't necessarily teenage, but yeah, that was definitely like a darker,
but
grittier
I feel
version of Disney. Yeah.
It's close enough to what we're talking about.
Exactly. And so I just
Bates Motel? Well,
Bates Motel. I mean, I
don't think Psycho was ever aimed at kids.
Was like a lighthearted show for teenagers. Oh yeah, Bel Air. The gritty remake of The Fresh Prince of Bel Air that exists.
Why?
Yeah.
No, why?
I don't know. Because in West Philadelphia, he was born and raised.
On the playground is where he spent most of his days.
Chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool. Shooting some b-ball outside of the school. Full circle. Back to basketball.
You know what else is a full circle?
A basketball.
Let's go!
So anyway.
USA, USA, USA.
I don't know how that fits in here.
Because Team USA always dominates basketball in the Olympics.
Well, that's true, because they have LeBron.
Yeah. And, like, Steph Curry.
I guess, okay, they have other people.
Yeah.
Except for Luka. And also the other one from Europe, Jokic, that's the one. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is Greek.
You know what? Are we about to start losing in basketball?
We might.
No.
No, because we got Teen Wolves.
We got Teen Wolves.
We have Michael J. Fox.
We have multiple Teen Wolves.
We got LeBron.
The man on the Lakers. Sorry. I'm sure that meme is super old by the time this fucking episode comes out. Anyway.
I just found out about it. What you mean?
Well, yeah, but this episode's coming out in 3 weeks. I told you, the cycle, it continues. We go.
The cycle will just demand so much.
The cycle. It's a circle, like a basketball.
You know what else is like a basketball?
What?
A basketball.
Okay. I think we should move on. I think it's time for our superlatives, Austin. What do you think?
Yeah. I kind of want to keep talking about Teen Wolf because it's so much fun, but you're right. This might be a long episode if we keep going and going and going and going. So, who would you save?
Well, no one dies, but I would save Boof. I think she deserves better. I think she deserves a better name. I think she deserves a better boyfriend. I think she just deserves to get out of this whole situation.
Yeah, no one dies, but I would save the coach.
That's fair. From the IRS.
Yeah. From whatever girl he ran into with a dagger tattoo.
Yeah. Or whatever man with a city name that he played cards against.
Oh shit, it was me.
Austin!
It was me.
I'm never going to play cards with Austin.
You better not.
Apparently not.
I also can't play him with Dallas
Nope.
or Houston
Or Chicago.
or Milwaukee.
Everybody's favorite guy, Milwaukee.
And you definitely don't want to play with Indianapolis
Nope. Or Santa Barbara.
or Des Moines.
You're better at this than I am. I keep thinking of all the popular cities of New York, Boston. That could be a name.
That could be a name. I could see someone being named Tallahassee.
Tallahassee is good. Knoxville.
Columbus.
Miami is a name.
Little Rock. I'm naming Zombieland characters.
That's good.
I can't think of the Emma Stone one.
I don't remember.
I wanted to say Arkansas, but that's a fucking state.
This is state. I don't remember.
Denver.
Well, that could be a name.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Hang on, I have to look up.
Sacramento.
Emma Stone. Wichita.
That's right.
She's Wichita.
Which doesn't make sense because the whole point is that it's where they're trying to get to, and they're sisters, and one of them's like a child.
Listen.
It doesn't matter. Nothing's real. Including Zombieland.
But yeah, so moving on.
You know what movie Woody Harrelson was in? White Man Can't Jump.
Basketball.
I thought you were gonna say Moneyball, and I'm like, no, he wasn't.
He was not in that movie. No, he was in White Man Can't Jump.
He was, yeah.
My favorite horror movie.
Favorite scare.
My favorite scare in this very, very scary movie.
Yeah.
Actually, the scene with him buying the beer is legitimately a little scary. I feel like if we had better effects, you know what I mean? I mean, it's not the best budgeted movie, but I think it would have been legitimately terrifying. What about you?
So I mentioned this a little earlier, but when Scott walks into the coach's office and then you just see a Nebraska Cornhuskers sticker or decal on the window or whatever, that gave me a little jump scare. I wasn't expecting Big Ten pride right away in my 1980s horror comedy. Surprise, Nebraska.
Surprise, Cornhusker.
Yeah.
My favorite thing, this is just a side note, but my favorite thing about that movie is on the window it says no children allowed in the coach's office at a school, and I just find that so funny. You can't just
especially because
no kids.
my door's always open.
Right. All right.
That's funny.
Tony Todd Award for movie MVP.
I'm gonna give mine to Boof.
Okay.
I would die for her.
That's fair.
I would treat her so much better than fucking Scott Howard. She would like me. I wouldn't go. I don't go Wolf.
Side note, I keep wanting to call Scott Howard Scott Harris, who is the general manager for the Tigers. That's correct, yeah. Okay, I'm right. And
he was a Teen Wolf.
And that's not who he is. He's not Scott Harris. He's Scott Howard. Different man.
But yeah, I would save Boof. And in turn, she would save me.
Amazing. I would give movie MVP to Michael J. Fox. Just because, like,
Yeah,
that
that's
man was
fair.
hustling that year. He was just on giving his best performance for this, like, B-teen movie, and I love that for him.
He might be the MVP of 1985.
That's true. We literally just talked about it. Our producer doesn't listen to our podcast when we record it.
I want to be surprised.
Listen. It's just in.
I love it.
Anyway, on to our next category. Is the score better than Jaws?
No.
No, it's not. I have started to kind of take this opportunity, like this question, to just
I love
talk
this.
about the composer.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like even...
Because we're fucking nerds.
yeah. Even though, you know, we're not going to have very many scores that are better than Jaws, because Jaws is Jaws, I would love to give these composers their flowers. So this score was written by Miles Goodman, who also did Little Shop of Horrors, La Bamba, which he did with Carlos Santana.
I love that movie.
And you also love Carlos Santana. Yeah. And The Muppet Christmas Carol. So he's got like a pretty like crazy repertoire. And he also got into composing because of his older cousin, Johnny Mandel, who is a jazz composer who worked with like Count Basie and Sinatra, like that era of jazz musicians. Johnny Mandel.
Howie Mandel? The voice of Gizmo / the host of Deal or No Deal?
Forget that every time he does Gizmo's voice. That's so crazy.
Like Gizmo?
Yeah.
Gizmo.
Like from Gremlins.
No way.
That's Howie Mandel.
That's Howie Mandel.
That
Johnny Manziel.
It's Johnny
That's
Mandel.
Mr. Football. What they call him? Johnny
Johnny
Football?
Football, yeah.
Johnny Football? That's
Johnny
right.
Football? I'm sorry. Wait.
Johnny Football's the voice of Gizmo?
The hypochondriac host of Deal or No Deal is Gizmo?
Yeah, that is real.
I understand you're telling me this. I don't think it's true.
Well, it's funny because, like...
What if it was the opposite? What if Gizmo did the voice of Howie?
Well, it's funny because, like, if you, like, look up, like, looking back making of documentaries, like, made now to the past-ish couple of years for, like, the 40-year-old movie that is Gremlins, and they're, like, looking back on it, Howie Mandel will do, like, his Gizmo voice, but it sounds nothing like Gizmo because he is 40 years older.
Right.
And when you're,
Yeah.
a man, your voice gets lower and lower as you age.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't hit those high Gizmo notes like he could back in 84.
Howie Mandel being Gizmo is a lot like Justin Long being Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks. Like, conceptually, I know that's true, but I can't process it correctly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Justin Long is Alvin from the live-action Alvin and the Chipmunks.
And Justin Timberlake, I think, is Theodore.
Yeah, and Jesse McCartney is the other one.
They couldn't get another Justin?
Apparently not.
I don't know what to do with all of this information. You really hurt my feelings. I think we have to move on. Anyway, Miles Goodman. He did the score for this movie. It's a lot.
Boof, there it is.
I genuinely don't know how much you're gonna have for this fucking episode.
I'm not editing this one at all. What you mean?
I'm
just putting this shit out.
I'm so sorry, everybody. So, one thing that I really find interesting about this movie in particular is that, like, the score is not present the whole way through. There are a lot of scenes where there's just no music playing.
It kind of feels like an afterthought a lot of the time. And I don't think that's the composer.
No.
But to me, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if this is the case. This is me talking out my ass. But I wouldn't be surprised if they forgot about the music, asked Miles Goodman to come in with like 2 weeks left, be like, hey, here's some money, give us some music, we'll take whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, the whole opening basketball scene, and I'm talking, like, no soundtrack, nothing. Like, the whole opening basketball scene, nothing. until like the very intense last part of it. The whole scene where he's like slipping down the hallway for 5 full minutes, nothing. Just him slipping. I find that interesting, and I think for that reason I don't necessarily find the score memorable, but I don't think that is Miles Goodman's fault, because he has like, I mean, if you look at his fucking repertoire, like Little Shop of Horrors and The Muppet Christmas Carol alone, plus La Bamba, like with Carlos Santana, and those are not like the only 3 that he's done. Those are just the ones that I wrote down.
No, it just kind of feels like the filmmakers didn't really care about the music.
Which is, it's disappointing when stuff like that happens, because it's very obviously a make or break situation.
I think
in many cases.
But is this a fine addition to your collection?
I would absolutely buy this film. I think this is the perfect movie. I genuinely have loved this movie since I was a little kid. It's one of my favorite movies that I remember watching, probably when I was too young to be watching this movie. There's a lot of parts in this movie that are very questionable, especially like some of it is aged poorly. Like there's language in there that is outdated. There's some themes that wouldn't necessarily be explored today, but I mean, that is part of the territory of watching an 80s movie, right?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that, but I do remember loving this movie as a kid, and just getting to watch it again was a really big treat. So, fine addition to your collection. Do you own it? Would you own it? What do you think?
I don't, but I would. I really enjoyed it when I watched it the other day. I thought it was a blast and a half even. I would like for it to be a part of my collection, so I think I'll seek it out.
Nice.
What is your Letterboxd review?
So my Letterboxd review says, this is a perfect movie. 80s camp, werewolves, van surfing, styles, and dads who love their sons. Better than any edgy teen drama could ever hope to be.
I like it. Would you rate it?
I rated it 5 stars because
very fair. Very fair. I like it. My review, honestly, a perfect movie heading into March Madness.
Real.
Is it because they were playing basketball?
They're playing basketball. It was, yeah. I wanted to make this whole long review of being like, now, if the Beavers out of small-town Nebraska want to make any noise in March, they're going to need their star player, number 42, Scott Howard, to really step up and go beast mode. While an undersized guard, and I wanted to go on this whole thing, and I was just like, nah. I ain't writing that.
I ain't writing all that.
His number before now.
Oh, no, we didn't.
So that is something that, to me, I've always thought they did on purpose, because he is, like, obviously the most unique, most different player on the court, and he is wearing number 42, which is an allusion to Jackie Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't think about that until you just said that, but when you mentioned 42 and you mentioned his number, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know that I would have caught that before now.
I like it. I like that.
Good catch.
And I did know 42 is Jackie Robinson's number.
Is it because you watched the movie 42?
Starring Chadwick Boseman and the Harrison Ford.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great movie.
It is a
It is a
really
great
good movie. I kind of want to
Like baseball for that one.
I kind of want to rewatch that one now because it is really good.
All right, Austin, our exclusive Werewolf Month superlative scale of 1 to 10. Would you pet?
10. But Boof?
11.
How many boofs did you give this?
I would give this all of the Boofs.
Ew.
I don't know if I want to say would I pet Boof because that's
It feels wrong.
it feels
and
wrong.
bad.
I
Especially
would,
since, like, I understand that this movie took place in the 80s, so this woman is
but
an
I
adult.
do not take place in the 80s.
But she is a teenager in the movie.
Yeah.
I also said 10. I love him. I would pet his little beard.
I would be on his basketball team.
That's real.
And I wouldn't get mad that he's hogging all that he's a ball hog.
I also wouldn't get mad. He's winning. We're winning. We are a winning
We're-
basketball team.
We're winning, and I don't have to exert that much energy. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's ever said like LeBron's taking too many shots.
Yeah.
Actually,
Right.
people have definitely
People have
said
said it
that.
a lot. Yeah.
Okay, but let's be real. Are we really going to get that mad about getting a participation trophy?
No.
A trophy's a trophy.
Exactly. All right, Austin.
Kawhi Howard.
Whoa. So, Austin, would you die?
Does anyone die?
Okay. Would I die within the scenarios of this film? No. Would I die for BOOF? Yes.
Okay, how about this? Would you die if you had to take a charge from Scott Howard, Teen Wolf?
I don't think I would die, but I think I would have to leave the game to at least 1 or 2 broken bones.
Okay.
Good.
I don't think I'd be returning to the court, but I do think I would be returning to
Your
life.
daily life.
How about you?
Would I die?
Would you die?
Of fun. It's a little Parks and Rec reference for you. Second one of the episode.
Is that the episode when they're doing the
The Halloween party.
Yeah, and it's April and Andy, and
Yeah.
it's like, people will die. Fun!
And murder.
I love that show.
Me too.
Was there any Teen Wolf references in Parks and Rec?
Don't think so.
I feel like Tom Haverford played basketball at some. There was some basketball going on at some point.
Probably. I did one of the Letterboxd reviews that I found really funny was like, this movie is great not because of the werewolfism, but because it's a really good fantasy for those of us who want to watch someone who's 5'4" be good at basketball. And I just really thought producer Jeremy would find that really empowering.
I love that. That's great. So that's our episode on Teen Wolf. That is our basketball episode. By the time this comes out, we are either very happy or very sad.
True.
Hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Had a good time. Boof, there it is. Our social medias.
Social medias.
You can find Would You Die on any podcast server. Probably the one you're listening to right now. I guess I didn't need to say that, but I did. Find us on the social medias at Would You Die Show on pretty much every social media. I'm at Austin M. Torres, at all that nonsense.
Yeah, you can find me on all the social medias at Whimsawillow. That's WHIMSI Willow. I'm going to stop spelling that now because if you haven't followed me, then what are you doing?
Unless, this is your first time listening.
I don't care. You should have already followed me. I said what I said.
This show is produced by our boy Jeremy Lippitt. The music you hear at the beginning and end of each episode is composed by my dear friend Josie Palmer. The episode promos you see every week is designed by my great friend Alec Gibson of Crosshook Creative. I am Austin Torres.
I'm Anneliese Petersmark.
And this was Would You Die? We'll see you next week when we talk about our favorite cookies.
What?
Try not to die.